Now, back to WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro.
NHRA Nitro podcast, WFO Radio. Are you a first-time listener? If you are a first-time listener, well, hello and welcome. Welcome to the show. My name is Joe Castello, and each week we interview NHRA Mellow Yellow Drag Racing Series winners on this podcast feed. So click subscribe. I think you will enjoy it, especially since we are in the NHRA Mellow Yellow Playoff Countdown. Playoffs. And you're going to hear racers who have done big things, big time, over the course of the next 5 races. You're going to hear from Jack Beckman on this particular show. Jack Beckman beats John Force, final round, Maple Grove, takes over the points lead, and it will be great. And it is happening because of some great sponsors, and I appreciate that you allow me to tell you who they are, like Marvin Rodak and Rodak's Coffee and Grills.com, talking about hot sauces and spice rubs and coffee roasted fresh per your order. Give Marvin a call, 817-924-6821. It is so good. Notice when I say so good, I put the emphasis. That's how you know it's really good. And Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure, 866-480-7223. They do licensing courses, of course, but already planning the Dragster Adventure for 2020. Gainesville Raceway, Tucson Dragway, Fontana, California Auto Club Dragway, and Norwalk already on the schedule. It's something you're definitely going to want to do. Quarter mile, 130 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Show up with just yourself. Frank has got a fantastic program. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School at frankhawley.com. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed. Go to Samtech. If you want to become a blockhead CNC machinist in general, work on race cars, 713-683-3817, samtech.edu. They have CNC machining, EFI calibration, an associate program. They accept the GI Bill, samtech.edu. Total Seal, piston rings, totalseal.com, the leader in ring seal technology, from Indy cars to stock cars to drag racing to road cars. Total Seal does it all. They will custom make piston rings for any application. They also have the tools for the job, totalseal.com. And Magic Dry US, the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, magicdryus.com. Support Scott Palmer, support WFO. If you've got a spill, if you work in a shop, you should definitely get Magic Dry. It's better for you. It's better for the environment. It's easier to transport and move around because it's a lot less weight, and it is the official organic absorbent of the NHRA. Not to mention Hangstifer's Metalworking Lubricants, Hangstifer's Laboratory since 1937. Your machine shop will work more efficiently. Your tools will last longer. Your surfaces will be better. Hangstifers.com and HusseyPerformance.net. Quality copper head gaskets, the ones that Sean Bellemere uses, HusseyPerformance.net. And those are the people that make it possible. Drag Racing Edge and EV3 Drag Racing help us out on the cross-promotional side. Drag Racing Edge is a magazine, and EV3 Drag Racing is a video game for your mobile device. Find it in the App Store. And just like that, we're diving back in. Joining us now, he was the funny car winner out there at the MOPAR Express Lane NHRA Nationals presented by Pennzoil, and the Wally went back to Detroit. Boy, they were fired up. Fast Jack Beckman. Jack, congratulations. Race 1 of the countdown. You won it.
It's about damn time. I've been on your show as a filler a couple times. This is the way it needs to be done, Joe.
Well, wait a second now. Something could be said for the fact that I sensed a tremor in the force, Jack, that something was about to happen. I had you on before the U.S. Nationals. You went to the final, so I was in the neighborhood. I was just one race off.
Lord, do I hope it happens 5 more times, too.
Is that possible? You know, now that Torrance did it once, I guess I got to ask everybody, you know, are you going to sweep the countdown, Jack?
Well, I think if you drive the caliber of car that I do, you know, if you drive for one of the super teams, I think you should rightfully believe you can win every race. It's not going to happen. Nobody's had a perfect season, but you should always take that attitude into a race. And the fans ask me every weekend, you know, you get 10 or 12 fans come up saying, you going to win this weekend? And I says, yes. And I was wrong 18 times before I finally got it right.
So true. But you did make, and when we spoke with Alan Reinhardt a little bit earlier this weekend, you've been to 7 final rounds this year, so it's not like you've had a bad car by any means. The brakes have not been going your way, and you've just been coming up on the short end.
Well, I in all fairness, Height beat me on a hole shot in Pomona. I don't think I was bad. He was just better. I red-lit in the semifinals in Chicago, and I feel like we had a car that could have won that race. I wasn't my best in the final at Indy. If my right foot moved 15,000 sooner, we would have won that one. And then we just got outran a couple of times, smoked the tires. I actually think it's tough with the stats. I hear 5 finals, I hear 6 finals. We were in the final round at the 4 wide, but didn't finish in the top 2. So I think that this was my 5th 2 wide final this year. And listen, that's what you need to do in the countdown, is go to final rounds. But man, in the first 18 races in that regular season, it is so frustrating to get that close and literally have nothing to show for it. Yes, you got some points, but we kind of knew we were going to be in the top 10. Now, when you get in the countdown, if you go to the finals and lose, it's still frustrating, but those points are so much more valuable that that's still a pretty darn good day.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. Massing points, that's it. And you did a great job in this given race, and we're going to talk about your round by round. But, the timing of it all and having not won a race, you kind of let me feel like, not that it was like dragging you down or anything, but it was definitely on your mind. It was something that was annoying to you. Breaking through for the first win is just a charge of confidence, and now you've got it.
Agreed. It's one thing to think that you have a team that could contend for the championship. It's an entirely different thing to be standing with that team in your car holding the trophy at the end of the day and know that you were the best and can contend for the championship.
Well, exactly. All right, so let's look at the results. It started out with, first of all, great qualifying all across the board in all categories, in that it was cool, it was overcast, it was entertaining. We saw Brittany, one of your proteges, so to speak, at Frank Hawley's drag racing school, go out there and set the top fuel world record, 3.62 with her Grubnick-tuned car. Your teammate Caps went 3:39, but you guys were right there. You had a strong pass and you qualified third. That gave you a round 1 matchup against Jim Campbell.
Yeah, but let's back up. Let's start with Friday. Friday, it was what you would consider killer conditions at Maple Grove, but I got to tell you, the crew chiefs were saying the track just felt different. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying it wasn't prepped excellent. It's just that most of us missed it in the first qualifying session. So Friday night, we come out for Q2, step on the throttle, the car's hauling butt, everything looks great, and it broke a clutch lever, and that makes it smoke the tires. Boy, that's something that doesn't happen often, but the silver lining for us is that it didn't happen on race day. So we went into Saturday without a good run. And then we had a nice lap on Q3. At the time, it put us in second place. We got bumped down to third. Q4, we heard a piston on the burnout. I get down track, the car starts moving towards the wall, I stepped off, but we still went 393. So really, our last 6 runs there were good runs down the track. And back up till Monday at Indy, 3.5 of our 4 runs there were good. In the semifinals, we only went a 403, but now we have a car that's going quickly down the track on a consistent basis. That gives me a ton of confidence. It tells the crew chiefs they're in that comfort zone in the tune-up, and it forces your opponents to step up and sometimes make mistakes in the other lane. So I truly like where we're at right now.
Well, absolutely, and you get by Jim Campbell first round, and with a 90, setting up marquee matchup, blockbuster, whatever you want to call it. And this is the kind of run that is created by the countdown. You and Robert. Robert is the points leader coming into this deal, has had a really strong season, and you guys are emerging at the right time. And so somebody, like if you don't win the race and Robert goes on to win the race, your chances at winning a championship is going to be diminished greatly. You know, in terms of percentage, I don't know. If it was a card game, Texas Hold'em, they would have the number up on the screen. But if you get beaten by Robert, since he gets a lead naturally, and then he goes on to win the race, it's going to be way hard for you to win the championship. You'll have to do something extraordinary, you know, winning multiple races. If you beat him, different story. You can get up there, get in the lead, and it kind of opens the door. That's what happened. You went 392. They smoked the tires. And so all of a sudden now, the points leader's out, the door is open, and it's time to make hay. Talk about that run.
Well, let me clarify it. I'm not a fan of the way we do the countdown. I never have been. It won me the world championship in 2012, and I still went on and said, I'm not a fan of the countdown. There's a better way to do it, in my opinion. Robert Hight had an 11-round lead over me and lost 9 of those rounds in the reset. Why do you penalize somebody who ran so good in the regular season? Because you want to see the championship go down to the last race of the year. There's just some things in life that you can't control. And if somebody excels like Steve Torrence has done this year, why should he throw away a 29-round lead? Anyway, back to the race against Hight. I think what set that up was we got lane choice based on our first round winning time, and I try my best to race smart. I stayed shallow every time unless it's the final round, because you don't know if lane choice is going to make a difference. Unless you have a crystal ball and you can peer an hour and a half into the future, you're going to be smartest to stay shallow, get the best ET that the car is capable of. Yes, it makes your reaction time look slower, but I will check my ego at the door and race for the team. So I think the fact, and by the way, Robert Hight stages shallow all the time as well, but I think the fact that we were 100th quicker than him first round was a big deal, getting to stay in that left lane for the second round. I know a lot of great runs were made in the right lane, but I think holding lane choice was key for us here.
Very interesting. Well, you get by Robert, and I'm going to pick up the conversation about the countdown afterwards, because I want to. It's still a big debate among fans. I know you're a purist slash, historian, so it makes perfect sense that you would think that. But now in the semis, you got to go up against the defending champs. They went out and won this race last year, J.R. Todd and the Yellow Fellas. And they're very tough, and they can turn it on come countdown time. But you also had lane choice against them. So tell me your thoughts on that run. You went a 91.6. Do you also credit lane choice for that victory?
I believe so. They did smoke the tires. Again, in the semis, there were some good runs made out of that lane. But I think crew chiefs, for whatever reason, tend to be superstitious and not want to change things that seem to work. And for us, that left lane seemed to work. Once I get strapped in that car and they fire it up and they lower the body, there is nothing I can do about JR and the DHL car in the other lane. I can't make them run any slower. We're not allowed to draft. All I can do is the best I can in my lane with my car. So you stayed shallow, you hammer the tree, you try to keep that thing in the middle of the groove. And, when you're at half track and these things are going 280 miles an hour and you can't see them out of the corner of your eye, that finish line can't come up fast enough. And then throw the chutes, lift off the throttle, pull the brake, and you see that wind light flash in your lane. Like, right on, we're in another final.
Against John Force, who you just ran in the final round the week prior in Indy, or the race prior in Indy. And, do you think about things like, all right, the word vengeance is too strong, right? You're not getting vengeance against somebody. But it's nice to have another shot at him after you've come up on the bad end.
I love John Force. I got a message this morning from him congratulating me. There is zero animus between he and I. I love and respect the man to death. In my eyes, he can do no wrong, and I want nothing more than to kick his butt when he's in the other lane. So, that Indy final was a squeaker. That's one the fans pay for. And to be frank with you, we hadn't had a race all day long, right? The prior cars against us had all smoked the tires. So we did not have a close race. And it's good for the fans to have a side-by-side final round. Now, let me back up a moment. John Force, in case you haven't noticed, does not want to stage first. Heck, he doesn't even want to pre-stage first. And I'm fine with the staging games. Frankly, I'm not smart enough to let them get to me. But at Indy, I told Guido, I said, I'm not going in first. I didn't think it was going to rattle John. He's fine no matter what. But I just wanted to make a statement that you don't get to pick when you stage every single time you race me. So I wouldn't even pre-stage first. So in the final here, I didn't care if I went in first or not. In fact, I'm pretty sure John doing his normal thing, he's not going to go in first. So I already had it in my mind. I'm going to take my deep breath. I'm going to count to 5 because John's in the other lane. I'm going to take my foot off the clutch. I'm going to lock in on the ambers on the Christmas tree, and I'm going to inch the thing in, and I'm probably going to stage first. And that's the way it worked out. Now, I did roll in a few inches. It's the final round. There's no lane choice after that. So it doesn't matter if you roll in some. So it makes me look better on the reaction time, and it makes the car look worse on the elapsed time. You're just trading one for the other. So my 28 light, in reality, was probably a 52 light. Our 395 run was likely a 393 run. I could not be more satisfied with the way our crew chiefs and our crew had that car prepared for all of Saturday and all of Sunday. I just think we've got the best horse out there right now.
Well, that's exciting. And, I like the starting line discussions because I think there's gamesmanship there, and it's fun. We had a burn down in Pro Stock Motorcycle. It was a lot of fun. And I know why it happens less often than it used to, because nobody wants to go down there and run out of fuel and blow up. But it's interesting, it's captivating, and the way it all works out, of course, in the final round, roll it in deep, get after it. And you win the race just like that. Now you're on the board, and all of a sudden you're having a great season because you won this race. The folks at Dodge are happy. MOPAR's happy. I could tell because they told me so. And, you're the points leader by 19 over John, 24 over Robert, 43 over Cap, 74 over Tommy Johnson Jr., and 87 over your other teammate, Matt Hagan. 90 over J.R. Todd. So all of a sudden, you're in position to challenge, to win this countdown, just like that.
Yeah, and fortunes change fast in drag racing. It's easy to go from zero to hero and vice versa. And if you win the race and somebody close to you in points goes out first round, that's an 80-point swing in one day. And then don't forget all those bonus points in qualifying. So that stuff can change significantly. These little bonus points, which I totally understand why NHRA's put the qualifying bonus points in there. I think they're too high relative to a round win. If you're going to keep your 3-2-1 bonus points, then I think a round win needs to go to 50 points. They're too much of an offset for a sport that really is about beating the car in the other lane, not being 2,000ths quicker in qualifying, which could theoretically be a solo run anyway. That's what Bonneville cars do, not drag cars. But they're important, and you need to get as many as possible. We were low ET of one of the sessions. We came out with 9 total qualifying points, which is not bad for us. Cap's got 16, which is fantastic. But those are going to be super important going forward. And what that means is the first run out of the trailer is absolutely critical. Not that you necessarily get bonus points on that run, but you make it to the finish line and get enough data to make the right calls for the next 3 qualifying runs.
Interesting. And the guys making those calls, Dean Antonelli, John Medlin, both, veterans, both have been over there at John Force Racing. But, the Dean story is interesting because he was kind of a management guy, for a while. And, he wanted to get back on a car. And he's back on a car now, and he's in the fight. And I find it to be very interesting and also great to see someone who's got such a passion for this to compete, getting the opportunity to go back out there and do what he loves and compete and succeed. He was very happy afterwards. And, talk a little bit about the guys that are making the decisions on your car, because they are in this championship fight as much as you are.
Well, let me tell you the backstory on both of my crew chiefs. John Medlin almost missed this race. John Medlin was in the hospital Tuesday with serious chest pains. He's already had one heart attack. You can't overlook something like this. and they think it was just angina, but John Medlin is one of the toughest human beings I know, not just mentally, but physically. He is a rock-solid SOB, and for him to say the pain was an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10, he was hurting. Schumacher didn't want him to come out to the race because Don really cares about John. Well, crew chiefs don't miss races. So he got on an airplane Friday and flew out there and would have missed the first qualifying run had it not been postponed because of the weather. So that's one half of my crew chiefs. And then you talk about Dean Antonelli and Guido. Guido's been doing this for close to 30 years now. He grew up in Tucson, Arizona. His father owned a hot rod shop and had a fuel altered. In fact, his dad owned the Nanook for a period of time. And so Guido's been around this all his life. And I'm telling you, Joe, I've worked for some amazing crew chiefs. Ron Tobler, Jimmy Prock, Tommy DeLago, Johnny West. I hate that I even started mentioning some of them because I'm going to miss a lot of them. Phil Schuler, Todd Okahara. These guys are all just brilliant. Guido is, if I had to pick out his weakness when it comes to systems on the fuel car, I can't pick his weakness because he literally doesn't have one. That guy can do every single thing on the car as good as anybody. Jimmy Prock is off the charts when it comes to the physics of how the clutch works. John Medlin is off the charts when it comes to metallurgy and machining skills. Guido is just an off-the-charts guy on everything from the front tires to the rear tires. So let me give you an example. Before we warmed the car up for the semifinals, we had broken 3 bolts that hold the entire front drive on the engine. Oops. We're going to have to change motors, and we don't have time, and we haven't even started the car up. Guido and Medlin both come out there, and they and every crew guy got in position, got the tools in place, got things lined up, jury-rigged that thing on there, put tape over the bolts, and then we said, as soon as we come back from the semis, we're putting a new motor in for the finals. And we went up there and still ran the same ET that we'd been running.
Wow, that is tremendous. You have quite a list of crew chiefs. You know, I know Todd Smith won the championship with. Like, you have driven for some of the best, and you're telling me that Guido is one of the best that you've ever driven for.
He's stunning. He literally knows every single thing on the car. Thank God he can't drive, or I'd be in deep doo-doo.
You got to try to get him to come on WFO here.
Yeah, but no, and he's a great storyteller too. But there's always people that they're great at certain things and really bad at certain things. And I'm great at a couple things and frankly completely inadequate at most things. But the more I watch some of these guys, and by the way, I've got a special place in my heart for Todd Smith. When he came over and we won the championship in 2012, that was the Cinderella story of the decade as far as I'm concerned. But the more I watch and listen to these people, John Medlin, you ask him a question, you better be ready for a 10-minute answer, and he is going to dissolve it down to the most basic element and tell you every single detail about everything involved in that answer. The man is, I don't know what his IQ is. I'm going to guess it's about 470. But, you know, Guido, when he came on board and he worked under Austin Coyle, and, you know, I don't know when it comes down to naming the greatest crew chief of all time in Nitro racing. I think it's like saying what's the best flavor of ice cream. There's 10 correct answers. But certainly Austin Coyle is going to be a number one in many, if not most, people's opinion. Well, so Guido was mentored under Austin Coyle and Bernie Federley, but Guido also had that intangible something when he came in there, an innate sense of mechanics and how things work, and an incredibly strong work ethic. And he gets mad at me sometimes, and I get upset at the way he handles it. And then I have to realize he's got to wear 5 shirts up there. He's got to be the crew chief. He's got to be the team manager. He's got to be the driving coach. You know, there's so many things to do. I literally just need to drive the car and pack the parachutes.
which we caught you on the Mellow Yellow Walking Tour packing those parachutes this past week, and you spent a little time with us and, tried to win over some fans, and they get to see you go out and win on a weekend where MOPAR donated some money to Infinite Hero and Make-A-Wish. It was a good weekend all around.
Yeah, I've got 31 national event trophies. 2 of them are Super Comp. I've got a bunch from National Opens, several from divisional races. And they all look awesome. They're the same size. They're basically the same appearance. Some of them just mean more than others. And if you haven't won for a while, I got a Charlotte trophy that was my first win in 55 races. That meant a lot. I've got my Indy trophy from 2015 where we doubled up and won the Tractor Field too. That's going to be a weekend that's going to be nearly impossible to top for any drag racer. But this Maple Grove one is right up there near the top. We hadn't won for over a year. We needed to make a statement. And not only did we do that with the car that earned every round win, but it put us in the points lead, and I'm hoping we don't relinquish that the rest of the year.
All right, so we started off talking about the countdown, and you revealed that you're not a fan of the countdown. I get it. I have this conversation all the time. I've had it with Steve Torrance, and we go round and round, and I get it. I always come at the subject from the, in America, we like the playoffs and we like to build to the crescendo. And just because you have a perfect regular season doesn't mean you get to be the Super Bowl champion, all that. I get the point, though. I'm not against it. I was around during the traditional era where you just started and ran until someone had more points than anyone else could get, and they became the champion. I get that, too. And I understand it. I just think it can be anticlimactic at a certain point. So what's the Beckman system, right? I know you've had to have put a lot of thought into it. You mentioned about qualifying points. I understand where you're coming from there. We all like to tinker and play with the point system. So if you were creating the ultimate system, what would the ultimate system be, Jack? What's the Beckman system?
Well, let's take it point by point. You said you feel I'm in favor of the other system because I'm a historian and a purist. But really, up till 1973, whoever won the last race of the year was the world champion. That was a dumb idea, even though I'm a historian and a purist. So in 1974, they put a season-long point system in place. Now, up till 81, you also raced divisional races in a Nitro car. They did away with that. So it has actually changed significantly over the years. Up till 95, a round win was worth 200 points. Now they're worth 20 points. So here's my problems with the countdown, and I'm so glad you used the Super Bowl analogy, because people say we need a playoff format. We don't have a playoff format. If you make the top 10, you're eligible to win the championship, but 11th through 28th still get to come out and race. Where's the playoffs in that? So we're not a playoff format. But football, you got a team that went 17-1 and come in and lose the Super Bowl. But let me tell you where it's significantly different. They could fumble the ball their first 3 possessions, get behind 21-0, and after the first quarter, they're still allowed to come out and play the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. If we lose in the first round, we don't get to come back in the second, third, or fourth rounds to earn points. If a NASCAR driver spins out on lap 50 and goes down a lap, they can still go back out and continue to earn points until the end of the event. We can't. Drag racing is not a playoff-style sport. 3 big issues I had seen with the countdown in the past. Number 1, if you're 11th, you're done. The best you can be is 11th. And guess what? Scott Palmer is now parking his car for 4 of the last 6 races because he's not in the top 10. Oops, that cost us car count. Number 2 issue, the playoffs or the countdown was designed to artificially tighten the points. Puts 10 points between each position, 20 points between first and second. What if you and I are 1 point apart going into the countdown? Now we're 10 points apart. It artificially gave you a bigger lead. Number 3, if you have developed a 29-round lead, like Steve Torrance did, that just evaporated down to 1 round. All that hard work, all that dominance, and let's say you got 1 bad clutch disc, you got a batch of blower belts that were defective, and you go out and stumble for the first 2 races of the countdown, Oops, you might not win the championship now. And I think another lesson that NHRA learned this year is 3 of your top 10 cars in top fuel sat out races this year, still managed to make the countdown, and displaced 2 full-time cars, Terry McMillan and Scott Palmer. Oops, that's going to cost you car count. Now people realize if they have a good running car, they can sit out 3 or 4 races and still make the countdown. My idea that I pitched to NHRA 10 years ago, I understand they want to tighten the points. I totally get that. I don't know why any race would be worth 1.5 points. Indy used to be back when it was a 32-car show, and then when it went to a 16-car show, they continued that for a few years and then realized, bad idea. A round win should be worth a round win, whether it's at Phoenix or Indianapolis. So my idea is no bonus points at Indy or Pomona. They're standard rounds. But race till Indy and then take everybody's points, including the guys in 11th, 12th, and 13th, and divide them by 2. Or divide them by 3. You can divide them by 8 if you want. I don't care. But it still would keep the proportion of the lead that somebody has built there. And then let's run to the rest of the year. And if you think it's anticlimactic to not have a top 10 cutoff, you don't think Scott Palmer would still be out there every race in the countdown trying to claw back into the top 10? You don't think the guys sitting 8th, 9th, and 10th are going to be pushing hard to try to stay there? As it stands now, Billy Torrance can take the rest of the year off and still have a top 10 finish. He doesn't need to show up anymore. So there's a lot of unintended consequences from a system that I feel is flawed. Now, it's way better than the system we did in 2007, where we did top 8, then top 4, then top 2. Boy, that was a bad move. So, listen, Joe, it's hard when you tell somebody their baby's ugly, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
you try to be diplomatic about it, but here's the reality. I'm a guy willing to offer my input for nothing, and there's a lot of people that are getting paid a lot of money that have college degrees that know more about me than know more than I do about media relations and demographics and things like that. But I think there's a better way to do the countdown system. I truly do. And before you think I'm venting on NHRA, I believe they've made a lot of terrific decisions over the last couple years. I see crowds up at some races. I see guides in the pits for the fans. I see a lot of things that I'm like, I never would have thought about that. But somebody in NHRA did, and they deserve a pat on the back for it.
No, well, that's why I wanted you to lay it out. First of all, you're the points leader. You've won a championship under this style, and it's always worth discussing ideas. And you even if we agree or we disagree or whatever, like you gotta talk about things to get to new places and new ideas and concepts. Like you just laid out a couple of really well thought out discussion points that I'm going to take from this and dwell on them and think about them. The season doesn't have to end at the last race every year if someone is dominant. That's artificial. I just want to make sure that there's entertainment value at the end of the year for the fans. We could call it whatever we want to call it. And you've made a very strong case right here because Scott Palmer is parking his car for a little bit. And there are some teams that didn't run the full season that made the countdown, and other teams that didn't run the vice versa on that, didn't run the full season that made the countdown, that ran the full season that didn't make the countdown, and they cannot improve their station in life.
Yes, I agree. Listen, we are entertainment and we are sport. And anybody that denies that, buddy, if nobody shows up in the stands, you won't be able to get a sponsor. So we do have to entertain the fans. I think we have such a wonderful product. Why do we need to artificially manipulate our point system? That being said, I get that tightening it up and having a more dramatic final few races is a good thing. But you can't manipulate sports because ultimately NHRA wants it to come down to the last race of the season like it did in 1973. And that's why you've got 3 guys that are funny car world champions that won one race in their lifetime. In other words, they were just hot for one day in their career, and they go down in history as a funny car world champion. Ask Ed McCulloch how that sits with him to have the baddest funny car on the planet in 1972 and have one bobble at the last race of the year, and the guy never won a championship.
Strong points, Jack Beckman. Strong points here on WFO Radio and NHRA Nitro. The historic references to Ace, all very, very powerful. I do think, though, that we are seeing an era of management which everything is being evaluated again. Decisions, past decisions, current systems. So I don't think it's off the table. I think if a good idea comes to light, I think it would be considered.
Yes, I would hope so. I felt like when I pushed this 10 years ago, it kind of fell on deaf ears, which, listen, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not saying everybody needs to listen to my suggestion, but I feel like I spend a lot of time thinking about this. I deeply care about the sport. I deeply care about the fans because I still am one of them. And I try to look at it from several different facets and come up with what's the best overall plan. Now, the best overall plan would be that there's like a 5-way tie going into the finals, but you just can't manipulate a sport. If one competitor goes out there and just thoroughly dominates and wins the first 4 races of the countdown, think about this, Joe. We could mathematically lock the championship up before we come into Vegas. If we go on a streak and the guys in the 4 positions behind us all stink for the next 4 races. So now you have a countdown and the championship's still been decided 2 races before the end of the season. Now, between you and me, I hope that happens.
Yeah.
But I get that the fans would love to see the climax at the end of the year. You know, in the seasons when John Force was dominating, he had the championship locked up by Dallas, it is a little bit anticlimactic. But you know what? Sometimes that's your reward for sacrificing and working so hard to put yourself in a position to dominate.
Very interesting points. Jack, I appreciate you laying it out for us here on WFO Radio and NHRA Nitro. And I invite the listeners to email me, joe@WFOradio.com. Hit us both up on, the Twitter machine. Let us know what you think. I'm WFO Joe. He is Fast Jack Beckman. Jack, any final thoughts? Anything else you want the fans to know about as you get ready for St. Louis? Another great race, great racetrack, Worldwide Technology Raceway, Race 2.
Yes, please no hate mail. If you have an opinion and you own a computer keyboard, it doesn't mean you're obligated to send me your opinion, okay? If you differ with me, I appreciate that. I don't go on social media because there's too many people that are just hateful that want to say dumb and mean things on there.
To
I
Jack
simply
Beckman?
don't get it.
No way. You?
Oh, you'd be stunned. Yep. No, I'm fully capable of pissing a lot of people off. I realize that. But, just because you can send a message over the internet with your opinion on it, you might want to read it by your friend or your cousin or someone else before you hit the send button.
That is so true. Not just dealing with racing, dealing with everything. People act totally. You are the third person today, Jack. Seriously. I don't know what's going on out there on the internet right now, but no joke. You are the third person today to reference the way people act on social media is different than the way they act in person and totally unacceptable.
Well, I did that Mellow Yellow My Journey and talked about having cancer. And I literally got an email from some guy who basically called me a sissy because his cancer was so much worse than mine.
What?
Can't win some days, right, brother?
That's insanity. Oh, my gosh. And on that note, Jack, I congratulate you on a victory. You always carry yourself so well. You do a great job for the sport. You do everything we ask of you and then some. I greatly appreciate you coming on our WFO Radio podcast and always taking us to a level much beyond just the round by round. I really appreciate that, and I wish you good luck.
All I want is to talk to you 5 more times this year, Joe.
It can happen, Jack. You're in control of this, though. I have very little to do with it.
And listen, before I come across like I'm discouraging the fans, everybody that listens to this, thank you guys. And the NHRA fans make my job the most amazing and make me feel like I'm the most lucky guy in the world to get to do what I do. Even if I have a cruddy day at the races and I suck, when you go to the ropes and the fans are there and they're so excited and so uplifting, I love that part of it. I don't want you to think that Jack's just upset at some people here. I love what I get to do, and I love interacting with the fans.
Well, I think you know, though, that the WFO audience, like this group of people that listen to this show, most of them, like 99%, are like positive energy people, because if they weren't, they wouldn't be able to handle me. You know what I mean? Because I'm a positive energy guy.
Right.
So, like, I'm too positive for some people already. They go somewhere else. So, you're speaking to you're preaching to the choir. We're all on the same page here on WFO. I'm pretty sure. Jack, great job. Safe travels.
All right, well, between you, me, and your listeners, we're going to fix the world, Joe.
I love it. I love the attitude. Let's do it. Jack, thank you.
Take care.
Jack Beckman with us here on WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro podcast. Click subscribe, share if you like Jack and you like what he had to say. Very interesting. First of all, the first person, I'm not immovable in my opinions. I know some people believe that that is the way to be, like have an opinion and become immovable, never yield, never change, never adopt a new idea. That's not me. I am open to different ideas. And Beckman, it's not that he shook my acceptance of the countdown, but he definitely did open up a couple of different interesting thought process. I think things can always be better. And so maybe there is something there. He did mention several very, very smart points. Scott Palmer, for instance. I don't know if it's just because he didn't make the countdown. I think they are regrouping. But then again, we can talk to him and find out. Certainly. But that is a different story. Beckman doing a great job laying it all out there. A couple of times this week, the vitriol that is spread on social media by people who are anonymous has come up. Now, it's not always on the air like that one. Sometimes it is off the air, and I'm taking a flyer that the WFO audience isn't really that way, just because I tend to be, not that I'm the only positive person in the world. That's not it. But just choosing to always focus on the bright side. And I'm hoping that our audience feels that way too. Maybe some don't. I know I've encountered some. But wow, your cancer's not as bad as my cancer. Yikes. And then, of course, all the in-depth stuff. 40 minutes or so with Beckman. Going in depth, multiple subjects. That's what WFO is all about. It's going to be a great countdown. It's going to be a great battle. It's going to be very tough. We'll see who wins. Thanks to Jack for coming on the show. And all the folks over there at Don Schumacher Racing. They've been doing a great job posting the interviews and making sure everybody can hear WFO Radio. And click subscribe. Write a review. Thank you so much, everybody. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Hit them up at TotalSeal.com. Nitro cars, pro stock cars, stock eliminator cars, stock cars, NASCARs, Indy cars, even F1. Total Seal Piston Rings. Good for your car. MagicDryUS.com, the official organic absorbent of the NHRA. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure. Jack was an instructor there. You should drive a dragster. RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Hot sauces and spice rubs and everything good. Tools for grilling. Marvin is great. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Start your education at full speed with Samtech.edu. Blockhead, CNC programs, Motorsport, EFI, all of it. Hank's First Metalworking Lubricants. Better cutting, better for your machine shop, better for the final product, more efficient. And HusseyPerformance.net. Quality copperhead gaskets used by champions like Sean Bellemere, who had a great weekend this past weekend. Big thanks to Jack Beckman. More WFO interviews to come. Click subscribe, write a review, and be ready, because we are going to hear from our Pro Stock winners, and it's all going to be in the archive. So load it up, WFO.
WFO! The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
I love WFO Radio.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking gourmet coffee. We're talking hot sauces. We're talking spice rubs. We're talking everything good at RoadAxeCoffeeandGrills.com. Marvin Rodak, been doing it since the 70s. Figured out that life is better with great coffee. And oh, he's so right. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. He'll roast up some coffee fresh for you. Throw in some hot sauce, some spice rub, and you will be loving it. Hit him up, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. The one thing that top drag racing teams agree on is Hankstafers.com. Hankstafers metalworking lubricants are going to make you more efficient in the machine shop. It's going to save your tools, it's going to improve your surface quality, and it's going to make you quicker and more efficient. Go to Hankstafers.com to find out more information. Hankstafers metalworking lubricants since 1937. Your education. What are you going to do with your life? That is what it's all about. And samtech.edu can help you figure it all out. The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology always says start your education at full speed because they will get you in, get you started, get you learning rapidly. The school is located in the Houston, Texas area. They've got a great campus. They're always expanding. But most importantly, their relationships within the performance industry is what sets them apart. We're talking about block programs, head programs, CNC programs, motorsport EFI tuning, all part of Samtech. They can even help persons that are eligible under the GI Bill. Go to the website, samtech.edu, or call 713-683-3817. Would you rather do something you love as your job? I know I would. samtech.edu.
Subscribe to WFO Radio on iTunes. Never miss a show. And don't forget to write a review. WFO.
This is WFO Radio.